I'm Emily Young with New Roots News, here today with Dr. Debbie Castle, a professor of biology at USF St. Petersburg and an acclaimed fire ant researcher. Thank you for meeting with us today.
My pleasure. I am happy to be here because I have stories to tell about ants. They're very different than humans, but many of their behaviors are very similar to us. And I hope to share those with you today. It's amazing what you can see if you just sit quietly. There's just this whole universe of little organisms. And one of the ones that I liked the best, because they were very common, were the little ants who would come out, talk to each other, and follow lines and follow trails and up into bugs. And I couldn't really catch them. They weren't as pretty as butterflies. But they were interesting, and that interest has kind of stayed with me for a lifetime.
What draws you to fire ants particularly?
My first degree was in psychology, and I've always been interested in behavior more than shape or surgery or physiology, anything like that, or even ecology. I couldn't do the experiments I wanted to do with humans or even primates. They're just so highly regulated. But I could do a lot with ants, like taking them out of their home and flooding them and starving them and seeing what kind of food they like. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is just take a big bunch of ants, and if you sweep them up fast enough, they're under stress and they immediately grapple together, and then I can just toss that ball in the air and play catch with it for as long as I'm willing to do it quickly. Because the minute I hold them, they're thinking, okay, that stressful moment's gone, and now let's find out where we can go to safety from here.
Do they ever sting you when you do that, or?
Not me. I always wear gloves when I'm handling with ants. The few times that I'm in a hurry and I don't use gloves, I get stung, but that's just the price you pay, and it's a minor irritant to me.
And do you do a lot of your experiments with your students?
I do. I have a class in the fall. I usually take up to 18 students who actually work in the lab, and they love it. So one of my students, female, wanted to know the effects of rum, beer, vodka, sugar water, and regular water as a control on the aggression of ants. So she very meticulously would feed the ants, 10 ants each, the vodka, the beer, and it turned out they liked it equally well. I was surprised by that. And there was no effect of alcohol on their levels of aggression. Turns out if an ant doesn't like another ant, it doesn't matter whether it's drunk or not, it is going to fight it. I buy dead cricket or live crickets, freeze them, and keep them in the freezer much like we would freeze our steak and pork chops. And I feed them crickets and sugar water, and they thrive. In fact, if I'm to open up a nest of ants, you can see the queen in there. She's laying eggs, there's lots of brood, and that is a very healthy nest that's very well fed, and they're just growing and growing, and I'm going to have to put these colonies of ants in a bigger bin eventually because they're growing so well. I don't like studying ants in large groups. I like taking small groups of ants, filming them over time, and then rewinding the tape and see how individuals are interacting with other individuals. And what I found was in a given number of ants, let's say 20, and I put them in with their larvae that they feed and take care of, the babies, one ant might feed 100 times an hour. I mean, she's just a high energy ant, and just feed, 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 feed. Go get food, feed, feed, feed. The other ants might feed 5 or 10 times an hour, and one ant is going to go up, it's got food, but it doesn't feed the infant. So I've tested these behaviors over a 6-week period. The high energy ants were always high energy, or they were asleep, and they do sleep. And the low energy ants, for taking care of the brood, were just kind of always a little sluggish, just variation. Now what I want to do next is take these low energy ants and put them in a different environment, like maybe excavating the soil to build a nest, and see if maybe they're just not much for nursing, but maybe they really are passionate about digging. Those experiments I haven't done yet, but I will.